4, 3, 2, 1. Right here. 4 tires of fuel. Slide 1, 1, 1. Outside.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Foreign Fuel Podcast, episode 18. And today we have another special guest. We have DannyBTalks. Danny, how's it going, man?
I'm doing good. Thank you all for having me here.
It's great to have you, and can't wait to talk about your whole experience, with NASCAR and everything. And before we get to that, we got to welcome Steve back.
Yeah, thanks. Glad to be back again. Sorry, I'm getting blown up with text from work here. So, anyways, glad, I have another guest. Glad to have Danny B on the podcast. And, yeah, just exciting. More guests, more fun.
So don't tell me you're on call from us. Don't tell me you're on call right now.
No, I'm not. It's just every night, I guess the phones get, switched over to different numbers. So they always text us, and it just happened to be that time.
Yeah, so, if anybody noticed, Steve did notice before the show that new background for me. I'm back in college, so this week I'm in my dorm. Next week I might be in my dorm, might be somewhere else, might have to hide out somewhere, try to get these podcasts done, but right now we're looking good. And, but enough about me because, everyone hears my voice every week, so I'm going to settle it down. Let's jump into Danny. I'm not even going to wait because I think the biggest thing I want to know is we've had Jarrett Lumber, Iceberg, and Eric Estep, and I've asked them about their experiences with the NASCAR Weekly Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to go back to the beginning. What started the NASCAR Weekly Podcast?
It's funny that you ask that because over here to my right, I've got a script for part 1 of a series that I'll be doing on my channel. No, I'm not talking to you, Siri. Calm down. But anyway, so I'm actually going to be doing a little documentary on this, the full length, the story of the NASCAR Weekly Podcast in multiple parts. And it'll be a fun series. So looking back, it all has to start back to when I started my YouTube channel. And I put out my first video back in 2018, 10 reasons why millennials will watch NASCAR in 2018. That was my first video ever. It sounds way worse than a lot of my current stuff today. I'm still uncomfortable talking on camera because I'm very much an introvert. When people don't realize that about me, I'm very much an introvert. But my first video sounded way worse than the stuff I'm putting out today. But that one, I was able to do it just as good as I could. And it's funny, today I have this Blue Yeti microphone. Back then, when I first said, I want to start this YouTube channel, I had ordered from eBay a Blue Snowball microphone. And I was waiting on it to come in, but I was like, I've got this script done, and I want to hurry up and get it out there. So what I did is I use Audacity to record my stuff. And nothing's wrong with Audacity. It's probably the best free program out there on the market. You can do things on that to make your voice sound a little bit better, a little more crisper. So I had this Xbox One headset, and for whatever reason, when I plugged it up to my computer, it would not work for the actual microphone part itself. Instead, though, I was basically having to take my headphones kind of like this and really put it right up to my face in order to actually record my audio. And it was such a weird thing to think back and say, oh my gosh, that's how I recorded my stuff. But that was how the very first DannyBTalks video was recorded. So when I put that out there, obviously a channel with, I say 0 subscribers, it might have been 10 people who, when I put on my Facebook, hey, I'm taking a leap out and creating a YouTube channel. A few people didn't even want to subscribe then, but so not many people even knew who I was at that time. That video got 3,000-4,000 views, and I was ecstatic. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a big deal right there. Your first big video you do, and it gets that many views. So obviously now it's if its video only gets 3,000 with a 14,000 subscriber base, and from a YouTuber's perspective, you're like, it's not that good.
Mm-hmm.
But back then that was such a big deal. And then Jarrett was one of the people who happened to see it. So, and I literally remember I'm about to hop in the shower one night, and all of a sudden I get this email on my phone. It's from the Iceberg, and he wants to try to, like, he enjoyed what I was doing, and his channel base at the time was like about even with me. We just had like maybe a few hundred subscribers from like one good video that we did. So we said, okay, let's try to collaborate. We want to both grow our audience to be big. We want to succeed on this platform. We want to do big things in the sport. Let's try to collaborate on something. Because for me, DannyBTalks was made solely because I could never find a job in NASCAR when I was getting done with college and out of college. So I had to make my own way. It's sad as it is. People say NASCAR is a sport where you got to know somebody or you got to be somebody, and that's actually true. If you don't have the right connections, if you can't get your way into something like I had connections. I was pretty much harassing Drew Bedard, who is a communications director over at Bristol Motor Speedway, trying to get some kind of job. Never could make anything work out. Emailed countless race teams trying to do something. Nobody wanted to talk to Danny B. So I was like, well, I got to make my own way. Thus, that's how DannyBTalks was created. But, getting backtracking there. Fast forward, and me and Jarrett said, okay, hey, how about this? Let's get onto a Google Hangout, and let's just start streaming us talking about the Daytona duel that just happened. So that's what we did. We just started talking. And then next thing you know, we do it the next week. And I think by episode 5, we had maybe 15, 20 people that might have been watching us live at that time. So, we were gaining some people who was enjoying what we were doing. And it was after that week, though, I think I kind of told Jared, it's like, we're missing something. We need somebody who's going to help us, like, stand out there. And at the time, Eric Estep was probably about a year and a half into Out of the Groove. Like, it wasn't near as popular as it is right now. Like, Out of the Groove gets like a minimum 30,000 views per episode now. Back then, though, it was getting maybe just a couple thousand, which Eric, I think he had about 65,000 subscribers at the time. So he was streaming Fortnite one night, and I started, like, pretty much, me and Jarrett was pretty much spamming his chat, trying to get his attention, and said, hey, dude, we would like you to maybe be a guest on our show. So we got him on as a guest, and we kind of, developed like a quick friendship there. And Eric, he's admitted before that he didn't really, like, at that time, he didn't really have people he could talk NASCAR with. It was just himself doing it. Like, because he come from, just doing stop motions mostly. Then he transitioned into Out of the Groove. And I think us coming on and coming up with this idea was perfect for Eric's schedule and his point in life. And even today, he's, had the opportunity to do some big things for our show. Like, we interviewed Mark Martin on his channel. We've had Haley Deegan before on his channel. We've had President of NASCAR Steve Phelps on our show. Now we've had Alex Bowman on my channel. We've got some other big guests hopefully working in the pipeline right now. I think we're scheduled to have William Byron on this week. So it's crazy to think what, just a few small events had to happen in order for us to be where we're at right now. But getting with those guys, and Darian included, all three of those guys have been my absolute best friends. I'll be honest with you guys. You guys are in college. I had 2 roommates that was with me my entire 4 years in college, but after college, pretty much just kind of had nothing to do with me after that. I was like, well, okay. Wanted them to be groomsmen at my wedding. Wouldn't even bother to come out there. Jarrett drives all the way from Illinois. Darian flies from Las Vegas. Eric would have been there, but he was actually in an internship he couldn't get away from, so I don't hold it against him. But him and his girlfriend Natalie went out with me and my wife for dinner on our honeymoon, so kind of made up for that. So, there's a genuine friendship there, and it's something that I would have never expected to have towards the end of 2017 when I was thinking that I wanted to make this YouTube channel called DannyBTalks. And, everything that's come to me since then, I feel blessed. I feel thankful. You know, it's been a ride. It's been a ride, but hope that kind of helps answer your question there.
Yeah, it's so cool to hear about. Just it's not even just just some simple idea of making a YouTube channel to put out some NASCAR content to try to maybe get noticed a little bit, and it turns out to just be almost like a livelihood. It produces a livelihood where you find these people and you can interact with them because they have the same common interest as you. And now, like you said, these guys are like your best friends, and that's just awesome. That's really what happened with me and Steve. We met online on Xbox playing NASCAR, and since then it's been 7 or 8 years now.
Yeah, at least.
And
I've got a lot of friends that I've known like online for the sim racing communities for a long time, but none of them are as close as my YouTube friends.
Yeah, because you all have, I want to say, the same goal. You're all producing great content, and
we've got each other's back too. Like we all, like there's no, and sometimes I don't know if the people who watch our content really understand this. People might think like, oh, Eric's the best. Oh, Iceberg's the best. Oh, Danny's the best. No, there's none of that with us here. And I don't want there to be anything like that. I want all of us as a group to equally have 100,000 subscribers and have nothing to worry about financially except for just putting out content that's going to make our livelihoods and provide for us. That's ultimately what I want for all me, Jarrett, and Eric, and Darian's currently kind of on a break. He's made that public to everybody. But if he does want to come back, then I wish the same for him. As a group, we all have each other's back, and I want us all to succeed. And people might not like to hear, you're a YouTuber. You just sit on your butt and make videos and make thousands. Well, it's not that easy. There's a lot more that goes into people will never be able to understand.
Yeah, just from the couple, now 17 episodes in, we're on 18 now. Just the hour and a half that I put into editing one video, I'm like, man, this is a lot of work because you have to go through, you have to, make all these cuts at the right time, and you have to, I'm constantly going back and rewatching it like 10 times over to make sure that it's smooth, that everything makes sense. If I got to put something in, that it's done at the right time. So
Yeah.
it is, and it, especially for channels like you guys where you're putting out multiple videos a week, that's very time consuming. Like you can easily take up a full day just editing videos. So
Yeah.
I do think you're spot on with that. I think a lot of people overlook how much actually goes into doing it.
I had to re-render a video that's going up tomorrow. I've got an interview coming up that's going to go. The interview will go out tomorrow with Ryan Vargas, and I had to re-render that all because I went back and I watched it and I realized I made one mistake when I was talking. I put the camera on Ryan, so Ryan's just sitting there, and I'm the one talking, so you don't even see me. So you got to pay attention to little things like that. And one thing, I've got this desk. I've had it now for months now, but I've just recently kind of decided to use it the way you can use it, because it's one of those desks where the table comes up and you can stand up and work. And honestly, I'm getting more done and being more productive by standing up and working for some reason. I don't know why, but it feels better. And one thing I'll say too, as far as like being a content creator now, take good care of your health, because I started recently doing that. I've been focusing on my diet, my exercise routine. I'm walking now every morning about 3 miles. I do that about 5 days a week now, and I hit the gym 1 day a week. Way less soda than I used to be drinking, more like tea at worst. I've always been a milk drinker. Milk's good for your bones. And really just trying to watch what I eat. My breakfast now is mostly just fruit smoothies. I'm already feeling results from this diet I've been on. I think it's now like week 4. I have been losing some weight, and the scale said I've dropped like at least 8 pounds now in 2 weeks. My BMI is going down. My energy is way up though. And you can probably even tell that just by the way I'm talking. If people have watched my stuff before, watched me on the podcast, I probably don't seem like I used to because I feel personally I have a lot more energy. I'm getting a lot more done now. So to do this week in and week out, like if you follow the DannyBTalks channel, I've noticed that YouTube just pretty much stopped recommending me, and that's because I pretty much hit a lull for a little while. Mostly, I think that's just because I let my body get away from me, and when I was just feeling like randomly tired all the time. And it was at that point I was like, okay, I got to change something here because I'm not getting enough done. Something ain't right now. Now this week has probably been my most productive week, and I feel like I'm ready to go. So take good care of your health. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I've experienced that because right before we started this podcast back in May, I was kind of looking at myself. I was like, I need to change something because I'm just lacking motivation. I'm lacking everything. Even just being home, it's just like I don't want to do anything. So I decided to, change up what I'm doing. I started to eat better, started running. I couldn't hit the gym, unfortunately, because in New Jersey, gyms are closed basically it's still closed. They were closed since March. But I started running 3 times a week and cut like all junk food out. I only drink water. And I mean, I've lost 70 pounds since then. And I've been more motivated because even last year we tried doing a podcast and I just after like 5 or 6 weeks, we just stopped.
Yeah.
And now I'm just pushing forward. I've been thinking now that I'm at school, I'm going to have more time. And when I'm at school, I personally feel like I work more. So I'm going to be in that work mood. I feel like I might start trying to make some content myself for the channel, just, including a podcast. But ever since then, you're completely right. You're dead on. Like, it's night and day how much your body just feels better. And it helps you physically and mentally. And I just wanted to know, like, what was that thing that made you decide that's it? Like, I'm changing it up.
I think it was when I got back from the All-Star race and I realized just like I was going back and I was editing the vlog and I was like looking at myself. I was like, dang, I'm getting too big here. And then also it's like just feeling like I was too lazy just to edit a simple vlog, just literally putting clips together from my weekend. And I was like, yeah, something ain't right here. I got to change this up. And especially the first time that I went to Bristol Motor Speedway and fortunately had the opportunity to have garage passes, that took so much out of me physically. I was just so drained when I got back from Bristol that week. I had huge like cramps in my ankles. Like I was way out of shape. Like that was probably the worst that I'd ever felt after going to a race. And my end goal is I want to develop this channel into some kind of way as like a alternate NASCAR media. And that's, what I think that's a direction that NASCAR YouTube has the potential to go. And it's a direction I personally want to go. So one day I'd like to have the opportunity to do a few race weekends in the NASCAR Media Center, but knowing what all that's going to entail, going out trying to get some interviews with people, working. That's you got to be in good physical condition to go do that. I see some of the people who are out there that do NASCAR media, and some of them keep themselves in really good shape, and I see why.
And you mentioned NASCAR media and everything. Do you plan, like, what's your end goal? Do you want to just keep developing YouTube and, make that as big as possible? Or do you have like a position in NASCAR that really, intrigues you?
At this point, I guess the DannyBTalks brand is just my best tool to use and just try to keep developing it. Like, you don't have to stay the guy who makes 5 NASCAR drivers you forgot about. You don't have to stay the guy that does rise and fall. Like, just make the content that I want to make, And that's kind of what I think everyone should want to do. If I want to do Danny B Needs a Minute and make it into a fun show for everyone to enjoy, I'm going to try to do it. It's what I want to do. But if some kind of dream position was offered from someone within NASCAR, I'd probably take it. Personally, I live not in Nashville. It's a little community close to Nashville, but it's still like an hour away from the Nashville Super Speedway. If for any reason I was able to be offered some kind of a, maybe like a part-time social media consultant or something like that, some kind of position with Nashville Super Speedway, I'd probably take it. But, you know, for now, all I have is myself. So it's, you know, you can apply for jobs all you want, but really I'd like to be at a point where, you know, someone recognizes the abilities that I have, the talent that I have, and they want to reach out to me. So, you know, maybe that sounds like I got a big ego, but, you know, that's kind of the truth.
Yeah, it's funny because you mentioned that because last week Eric mentioned that he likes doing his own thing. He likes that he can say whatever he wants. No one's telling him what to say, as compared to working for like Fox or NBC where you're pretty limited on what you can say. And then Jarrett said how he just, oh man, he said that like making his own videos, you know, he's getting that tagline of being, missing rings guy and all that. And he wanted to get rid of that. So, and he doesn't want to make series as much as he just wants to make videos that interest him, you know, not just fill in, because he even did the same thing with the playoff standings for each year. He said he's only doing 1 or 2 of those before he cuts that. And it's just funny that you have like the same mindset, and it shows how much you guys are like in the same mindset where you want to make your own content. And realistically, it's great how you all are doing your own thing and coming together for the podcast, and people could see that you guys are so intertwined with each other.
I think that's
I mean, at the end of the day, this is a common goal for all of us, like I said. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Steve.
No, you're good.
I apologize. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's just a common goal between all of us. So we're all working hard. You know, I've got my college education. I've got a bachelor's degree in hospitality, restaurants, and tourism. But looking at how COVID affected the hospitality industry, kind of glad I found a way to make my own way a little bit.
Absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of YouTube in a way. I think when I was a younger, more casual fan, I was like, well, you know, you just kind of brush off YouTubers a little bit, but now like within the YouTube community, there's a ton of great content out here. Like before the podcast, I was just scrolling through some of the videos that you made, Danny, and it's like, you know, here's a video, why do casual NASCAR fans enjoy crashes? And then there's other ones of classic races on here. And I think that's just the kind of beauty of it, is that, you know, you guys all come together for this one podcast, and the NASCAR Weekly Podcast, you guys do that, but then individually you make your own series. You have the Rise and Fall series, and, you know, Jarrett has his own and Eric has his own. And I think we're only going to see more of that now. And I think that's really the beauty, because just like we were talking with Eric last week, you're really in control of how much you want to put out there. If you want to put out more in a week, you can. If you don't want to put out as much in a week, you can do that too. Nobody's telling you what to put up or what to do, or it's all in your hands at that point. And I really think the further that we progress with social media and YouTube and stuff like that, it's only going to get better from here. So I think it's just a awesome tool to use these days.
Yeah, for sure. Think back to, you know, one of our most successful people in the community now. He's going to be 100,000 before you know it. Slap Shoes. Everyone loves Slap Shoes videos. You know, he uploads something, it's easily going to get a couple 100,000 views on average. And one of the coolest things about Slap, like Slap is an awesome guy to hang out with in person, but it's even cooler because he's so humble, and I love that about him. He's not told anyone his real name. Like, no one's gonna know who he is other than Slap Shoes. But you know, I appreciate that. I'm not, you know, I got nothing to hide. You know, my name's Daniel Baldwin. I'm not afraid to say that either. But you know, I respect Slap trying to stay modest, though, even though he is probably one of our more popular figures too. And you know, like you said, you can upload as much or as little as you want. You know, I guess sometimes it depends on, you know, the YouTube gods being in your favor too. But, you know, he'll upload, you know, once every few weeks, but that's because it's convenient for his schedule. You know, right now I'm in a situation where it's convenient for mine. When I was selling cars, it was very inconvenient for me to try to produce content. That was very hard. I was working 50 hours a week on a car lot, being miserable, if I might add that. Please never go into the car industry if you don't have to, unless you're able to do something with race cars.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I mean, it's so funny because it's just like, well, you got this job, you're working 50 hours a week, but like you're not having fun with it. You're just dreading it so much, and now you're out here making content and growing a viewership just while having fun. Like people are tuning in, watching you guys every week, just having fun. Mm-hmm. Like that. I love doing these. I love just talking. I could talk all day about, NASCAR or anything. I just keep going, and sometimes it hurts me because I ramble on, so people start to think I'm annoying. But I don't care. I love talking about NASCAR, and that's exactly what you guys are. And realistically, it's just such an easy tool to do a podcast, especially when you're dealing with friends. It just makes it so much better. And I think that's why people love tuning in every week. I think you guys average almost at least 3,000 viewers every week, plus whatever you get afterwards once it's uploaded to YouTube and not live. And now you guys are getting all these guests on. I mean, there's nothing more exciting than getting a big guest to come on the show.
Yeah.
The only direction you can go on YouTube is up. Unless you really do something bad, you can only go up.
And I think, like, once you find your topic that you love talking about, and for us it's NASCAR, for other people it's whatever they do, but for us it's NASCAR. It's so easy to talk about, and once, kind of like work, once you find that job that you love to do, it's not work anymore. It's just fun. And
yeah, this is not a job. This is me having fun. I just so happen to make money from it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There you go. Even better. If you can make money from it, that's even better.
But so I've been curious. So you've been doing these kind of little like segment like style videos that are going up on the NASCAR social media.
Mm-hmm.
So like what was the deal with that? Like how did that all get started?
So a couple months back I left the car industry back in January, and I got with a sign shop for about 5 months and was not happy with doing that. I got laid off for 2 weeks at one point during the pandemic when it got the worst. I started doing, when I was new, I had to go find something else. I just signed up with the app Instacart as an Instacart shopper. So I started doing that, and then realized, I was making pretty good money each week doing that, plus what I was making from YouTube. And I was like, I could get by on this. And as I try to find a career path, like, that I enjoy more, which at the time I still wasn't really uploading that much on YouTube. Now I'm doing way more than I was even back then. So things might look even different for me, but I needed to find something to do though. And I had applied for a job as a full-time YouTube video editor for a channel of about 32,000 subscribers. They focus on like business tips, growing your small business, things like that. And I was in the final 3 for that job. Like I was really, really close to getting it. Even got paid, $50 to do a trial edit for them. I was that far into it. Unfortunately, I didn't get the job, but I felt down after that. So I talked about it on LinkedIn. Hey, I almost got this dream, what I would call a dream job. Getting to edit YouTube videos as a job. Where do I go from here? And then someone in Charlotte recognized that and actually tagged Tim Clark with NASCAR into my comments on LinkedIn. So then I got connected with Tim and had a conversation with him, and he got me connected to a guy named Justin with NASCAR. Justin really kind of enjoyed like hearing what I'm trying to accomplish in life. And then next thing I knew, I was being asked, hey, would you like to come on to backseat drivers sometime? And I was like, yeah, sure. That would be nice. So when I was on vacation in Gatlinburg, they had me and Eric, we sat in and we weren't a part of an episode. We just kind of watched what they did, how they did it, and that's how that went down. And then a couple weeks later, they actually asked us to be on an episode. I think Eric had something going on. He couldn't be there, but I was able to join. So I was like the first, like, YouTuber to be brought into that. And the response online was really good. A lot of comments were very positive about that. Not everyone. Some people are going to say I'm a sprinkler or something like that, the way I talk. So it is what it is. But, yeah, so it's just kind of like, again, it's one of those things like, one thing happens and another thing happens, and, make connections, and you never know what this person could see in you. And yeah, so it's been a great opportunity to get to be a part of this, and especially they've been running the What If series on FS1 here lately. So we've kind of been brought in to kind of give our thoughts and opinions on some of these scenarios. So that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been really fun to be able to check that out. I know we've kind of discussed a couple episodes ago, the big what if scenario, and this came up on Fox Sports 1. What if Dale Jr. had went to Gibbs, or what if Kyle Busch never left Hendricks? So those have been just really fun to check out, and it's really it's right back to social media. You just put something out on LinkedIn, and then that took off. So you never know where things are going to be able to take you and what doors it's going to open. You just were able to get that foot in the door, and now it's going to open up so many more for you.
I hope so.
And I hate to like change the subject again. I know I keep doing it, but I forgot to ask at the beginning, what's like the origin of you getting into NASCAR? What was there a driver that you really rooted for in the day that really got you into the sport? And just take me back to the beginning.
I guess just start watching his dad would have it on TV every now and again. He wasn't even a big fan of it as much as I am. He's definitely a casual fan, but he'd just have it on, and I'd watch it. I'd be, find it fascinating, and, loved playing video games as a kid. Got the NASCAR video game and got into it even more for that. You get to know the drivers and everything. And so then you start watching it, and, I had to pick a favorite driver at the time when I was a kid. I rode bus number 24, so I rooted for the 24 car. I was a Jeff Gordon fan. I was a Jeff Gordon fan when I was a kid. But as I got older, I started, thinking like, do I really like this guy? Do I want to root for someone else? And when Dale Jr. came over to Hendrick, I started rooting for Dale Jr. So then I became a Dale Jr. fan, and rooted for him all the way until 2017. And he was in his retirement year, and I started, thinking in 2017, I had just graduated in the spring of 2017 from University of Tennessee, and I was thinking, hey, I want to find a job somehow, and I want to, do what I can. Ultimately, didn't find a job, so just had to make my own way and kind of documented my whole journey as a fan moving forward. My favorite driver just retired. Where do I go from here? So after Junior retired, I had enjoyed seeing the way Alex Bowman drive in 2016 when Dale Jr. was hurt. And when he was announced that he was getting the 88, I was like, yeah, I might root for this guy. And then when he won Charlotte in the 42 car in the Xfinity Series, I said, yep, I think I got a good choice here. So been rooting for Alex Bowman ever since then.
So just curious, we've asked, so 2 weeks ago we had Dalton Good on. Last week we had Eric Estep on. And I had to ask those two what was their favorite win out of Kyle Busch and Matt Kenseth. So now I'm curious, for you as a Dale Jr. fan, what out of all of Dale Jr.'s wins, what stands out to you?
I think for me, probably the 2012 Michigan one, just because of what that meant. Like, I started rooting for him in 2008. So obviously he got the win in Michigan in 2008, but in 2008, I was still pretty much like a casual NASCAR fan. Like, I'd watch it every now and again. So I actually didn't even get to watch that race where he won. So then I went 4 years without seeing him win, other than, that 2010 race in the 3 car. Loved seeing that one in the Nationwide Series. But that 2012 Michigan one definitely meant the most because it was finally closure on 4 years of having to wait and wonder, when is it going to happen? When is this guy you're cheering for every week going to finally win another race? And then it finally happened, which it's kind of funny. Literally 4 years exactly. Like you can't write a book perfect in that.
Yeah, and it's funny because when you look at NASCAR and really any motorsport as compared to other sports like football, baseball, in baseball, you play so many games, it's like, yeah, your team wins, it's cool, but you got to play again and again. It's with NASCAR, you've got one winner and, up to 39 other losers.
Yeah.
So every win is more special, I feel like, as a fan. Well, the driver, obviously, but as a fan, because you get that whole week to be your driver won the last race. You get to hold that title for a week, and, there you don't have to worry about it. You win. A win is so much more meaningful in auto sports than it is in other sports because you come back out and it's only one opponent you have to beat.
Mm-hmm.
You're not facing 39 other people that day. So that's why I feel like 4 years, it's a long time. Obviously, you're not going to see a football team go 4 years without winning a game. It's not going to happen. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm a Tennessee Vols fan. I've seen some bad years, but at least we'll get a win.
mm-hmm. And now Tennessee, 25. Preseason rankings, they're number 25.
Well, if you take out the schools that aren't playing, we actually go up to 15th.
There we go. We got Kevin, he's a Vols are his SEC team. Obviously, Michigan State's his team. That's where he goes. But we'll watch highlights and stuff and all the plays that happen against Tennessee. He'll get so mad just rewatching it and stuff. It's funny. And college football, I was never really into it. I was always just NFL. And then I started watching a few years ago, and I've been getting hooked into it more and more. And so I kind of want to see it.
It's just like NASCAR. You can't just watch the Cup Series. You got to see who's coming up.
That's right. Like once you start watching it, it's just addicting. You would just want to watch more and more.
Yeah, I'm telling you, some of the best drivers are in the trucks and Xfinity Series. You get better racing, I feel like, down there than you do half the time in the Cup Series.
Honestly, if you, my opinion, one of the greatest veterans we have in NASCAR right now is in the Truck Series, Matt Crafton. He's just a guy that if you want to look at someone to just be a veteran who knows what he's doing, it's Matt Crafton. And he spent his whole career in the Truck Series. There is nothing wrong with racing in the Truck Series.
It's still a top 3, series in all of NASCAR. It's obviously he's one of the best drivers there are in the sport.
I got to say this. I wish I would have took a picture of this last year. I felt so bad for Matt Crafton last year. I was walking in Nashville because they got the award ceremonies here. And over on the left by the Cumberland River, you have Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Daniel Suarez might have even been there. But a bunch of good guys in the Cup Series are signing autographs, and there's a long line of people. Over at this RV, just a table with hero cards. Nobody is around. Matt Crafton is just sitting there in a chair with his hands in his pocket like no one wants to come see him. I felt so bad. I was like, I feel so bad for him. No one wants to see Matt Crafton. He's sitting right there.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't just some guy that looks like that is Matt Crafton sitting there. No one wants to come see him.
Just casually a 3-time champion, just no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. I'm only the 3-time champion over here. I really wish I would have been just to talk to him. I regret that so much.
Yeah, he seemed. I met him 2016 Eldora truck race. That's the only NASCAR race I've been to. But they opened up this big garage area where they had a whole bunch of drivers in there, and obviously it was like you just kind of keep moving along and you're getting the hero cards from all of them. But Matt actually stopped, and my dad and I chatted with him for as long as we could. But he just seems like a really down to earth guy. Yeah, he's a 3-time champion, multiple time winner in the Truck Series, but he doesn't have that big, ego, or he doesn't have a big head on him that that I think a lot of people would think. He's just a really down-to-earth guy. The guy just loves to race and win races, and definitely one of the nicest guys you meet in the garage area.
Yeah, and I back in 2011 in the fall Martinsville race I went to, on I think it was Saturday, where my dad and I were just walking around the souvenir haulers and stuff, and so we see Kurt Busch at his souvenir hauler was, there and signing autographs. And I saw the thing. It was like, oh, you need like a wristband, and like those are already sold out. So I was like, oh, well, that kind of stinks. Out of nowhere, David Reagan just comes up right in front of his hauler and just sitting there in his street clothes. And he's like, hey, you want an autograph, like a picture? I was like, yeah, that's cool. And he was just sitting there, and a few people came over, and a little line formed, and it was right next to the Kurt Busch souvenir truck. That was the funny part. And David Reagan is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I got to meet him twice, and I don't think I've met a nicer guy than David Reagan. I mean, my bias would say Jeff Gordon, but Dave Reagan, really nice guy. And the fact that he just walks out there right where all the fans are, just like, you know what? I'm going to just stand here and see if people come to me. And people did. And that was when he was in the 6 car. And then I got to meet him when he was in the 83 car.
Dark
Dover.
years right there. Dark years
Yeah.
right there.
Man, I keep seeing David Reagan, and I just wish he can get one of these truck races to just to get in the field, because he's the one guy that they always have too many trucks, and he's the one guy that can't make the race.
When he got dropped from Michael Waltrip, like, that was shocking. It was sad to see, because I remember the 2010 Chicagoland victory. He didn't fluke up and win that. He straight up dominated that one in the end of it. Like, that was such a convincing win by David Reagan. I thought he had made it in the sport. It was going to be around for a while. And then he was down to a sub-tier ride just 2 years later. That was hard to believe. Like, when he was dropped from Michael Waltrip, I wish he would have went down to trucks or something and got a quality ride.
Mm-hmm. That's what some of these guys need to do. I feel like someone like a Ryan Preece, maybe even a Suarez at this point, your best bet.
If you put Ryan Preece full-time in a Stewart-Haas Xfinity car, I bet he's going to win a championship.
Yeah, he definitely – some of these guys just take rides in the Cup Series, and it's just – I think Jeb Burton did it. I think he went right from trucks to the Cup Series and got put in a really bad ride. And,
I mean, I can't blame him. When we was talking to Alex Bowman a couple weeks ago, obviously he's much happier where he's at now. But he was explaining to us, it's – when you're put in a situation where you can run in a horrible car, but have plenty of money to pay your bills, why would you not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because a lot of people don't notice. Guys who race in the Xfinity Series and Truck Series and not good equipment, them guys ain't making much. They're having to still provide a lot of money just to get those opportunities. So they ain't able to make that much money. If you get just a sub-tier Cup ride, though, you're at least going to live comfortably. There's some Xfinity guys that I know who are literally having to go in with their buddies, and they're renting out like 3-bedroom apartments together just because they gotta make it. They gotta make it. So it's not a luxurious life at all for these guys who are running the back in these Xfinity cars.
I was seeing someone on Twitter a couple weeks ago when they got back to racing that the last, this is only like when they had 17 cars in the field or something. The last place paid out $900 for the whole team. So then you have to pay for your supplies that you use that weekend, for the fuel that you use to get down there, and still pay your guys. So you're actually probably paying money at that point. So you're exactly right. I think once you look at it from a different perspective, I think you'll understand why guys do that now. Obviously, it doesn't help with, some guys that actually have talent, and then they're getting booted out of rides for people that have money. But at the end of the day, this is a business, and the teams, I think, are going to go. They have to survive too, and they're going to go with whatever and wherever the money is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so you look at those teams. I'm kind of curious to see how much last place makes in a cup race compared to even just the winner of the Xfinity race. I'm kind of curious to see how much that difference is.
I'll put it like this. It's got to be a lot, because how else would, I hate to pick on him like this, how else would Rick Ware Racing be showing up with as many cars as he does?
Literally.
Yeah,
the guy shows up with like half the field.
Yeah.
There's a method to the madness of these back teams in NASCAR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you look at Rick Ware Racing, they pulled off a feat that we don't know if it's ever been done before. Finished last in a cup race and Indy 500 in the same day.
Yep.
So it's interesting, and they're able to get James Davison to run both of their cars, in the Indy 500 and in the cup races. So it's interesting. I wonder, because you're not gonna get a top Xfinity guy to go to a Rick Ware car in the Cup Series because they just know they're better than that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not going to get next year, you're not going to have Brandon Jones or Harrison Burton going up to the 51 car. Just not going to happen.
I mean, even to try to rebuild his career, he ain't going to get no Kyle Larson either. You're not going to get someone who has a lot more talent than that.
Yeah. They're just getting that NASCAR hot seat opportunity.
Yeah, and it's
just don't crash the car. That's all.
Yeah.
Don't crash it.
We make money if you don't crash it. That's it. You finish last, A-okay.
Crash it. Okay, boss. There I go.
But yeah, it's interesting seeing these cars in the back that keep coming out and keep racing, and they keep making money. Obviously, they're not losing money. They'd be folding up.
Mm-hmm.
I think the prize money these days is as big as it's ever been. I think it only keeps going up, because remember when the All-Star race rewarded you, what was it, $10,000, $25,000 for winning the All-Star race, and now it's $1 million?
Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
I think now to win the Daytona 500, it's easily over $1 million. I don't know if it's up to that 1.5 yet, but I mean, it's easily over $1 million to win the Daytona 500, just that alone.
Denny Hamlin just cashing that check year after year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a race where anybody can realistically, you got about 30 cars that could really win the race.
Could you imagine if a Rick Ware car won the Daytona 500?
Oh,
what
man.
would that do for that team?
Man,
Well,
they might put a fifth car out there.
Oh, my Lord.
I will say, I've always liked Front Row Motorsports, and I'm happy that they've gotten 2 wins over their career. So, one of them maybe they didn't earn, but the other one they definitely did earn. So, I've always kind of appreciated seeing them, steadily, slowly, I mean very slowly, improving their performance year after year. Like, Michael McDowell has been overdriving his equipment this year. He's gone under the radar for a lot of people, but he's been really impressive this year.
Yeah, McDowell's been inside the top 20 a lot this year. And even John Hunter Nemechek gets, flashes of, greatness in that car. He almost won Talladega earlier this year. McDowell is always really good at the road courses and the super speedways. So McDowell, and even he got into Bubba in the Open and everything, but he still was a top 5 car, I'd say, in the Open. And that's, it's still something, because there were some good cars in the Open. There were some good teams in the All-Star Open. So McDowell has been really putting on a show in that equipment. And honestly, if he wasn't so, I wouldn't say old, but if he wasn't in the sport for so long already, he might have a chance at one of these big rides that are opening up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it just like you said, I think it's too little too late for Michael McDowell, but when we were a couple weeks ago at the Daytona road course, solidly upside in the top 10 all day long. And that's just the kind of performance that Michael McDowell will give you in the top 20 at an oval all race long. And just, you hardly see, it was that one incident with him at Bristol with the All-Star and with Bubba Wallace. That's what I was looking for. And But other than that, you don't see McDowell like tearing up equipment. It's always, if something happens, it's a mechanical failure, but he's not overdriving the car, making mistakes. He just has that, good knowledge of how to work a race car. So I think it also helps be a good mentor, and that's why we've seen John Hunter Nemechek have good runs this year, because Michael McDowell is a good mentor in helping Nemechek. This is what you need to work on. This is what the kind of things you're looking for with these Cup cars. So I think that's why we're seeing a lot of guys that are not necessarily towards the end of the career, but they're older now. They're taking that mentor role.
Yeah, I mean, you go to JGR and look at Christopher Bell next year. He's going to have 2, maybe 3 Cup champions on the team with him. And I mean, that's
as right, ain't that secure, because they've had 2 young guys come in and out there last few years.
Mm-hmm. And
as long as he doesn't have Chris Gale for crew chief, he'll be all right.
Yeah, Chris Gale. I can't see where they don't have Ratcliffe come with them. I think Ratcliffe is. I feel like that's like 95%. Like, he's going over with them. He's been with them his whole career since Xfinity. And so with Bell, he's got a lot of potential. I think it's going to be hard to get him out. And then because Truex and Hamlin, they have, I'd say, 4 or 5 more good years left at least. So, yeah, that's the problem. I keep saying it every week. Joe Gibbs Racing or Toyota is just put in a bind because you've got all these guys competing at the highest level. You can't get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
And you got all this young talent in the lower series, but you don't have another team to really, jump them off to. And the sport keeps getting younger and younger. So the rides that are becoming available are going to be less and less, because the sport's going to eventually hit a point where it's so young, where it's all going to be performance-based and more pressure on these young guys. Because you look at Hendrick is as young as it's ever been. Ever since they've been created, once Jimmy Johnson goes, the most experienced guy will be Alex Bowman in the Cup Series at least. And then tenure-wise there, it's Chase Elliott. And if they brought in, say, Eric Jones, the average age of theirs has got to be under 25. And that would be crazy, because then what do you do with all those junior motorsports guys that are coming up? You got people like Noah Gragson. Zane Smith is down in the Truck Series.
That was the whole reason that Noah even came over to junior motorsports, was because with the Gibbs track, there was nowhere for him to go. Now there's nowhere for him to go.
Yeah.
He's just in that never-ending cycle. There's nowhere to go. I mean, look at Hendrick back. Let's go back to like 1997, where he had like Jeff Gordon, Terry Labonte. I can't remember if it was Schrader or Craven driving that 25 car, but
I think it might have been Craven.
Yeah, it was one of those 2 guys. The average age of Hendrick at that time was like 35 or something.
And it was just weighed down because of Jeff being so young.
Literally, yeah. That was it.
Look at Hendrick in 2009, in 2010, even 2011.
Yeah.
Johnson, Gordon, Mark Martin, Dale Jr. I mean, Mark shoots it way up, but
but yeah, it's just, and how competitive they were in 2009 with all those guys. Outside of Junior, they were top 3 in points. It's just.
I remember there was one week, and I thought it was going to happen, but it had been like, I think Jimmy Johnson won a race, then Jeff Gordon won at Texas, Mark Martin won something, and then they went to Talladega. It's like, okay, can Junior cap it off? Can they all 4 win something? But he come in second.
Yeah.
That was the race where Carl Edwards almost died in the catch fence.
I was so mad at the beginning of that race because Gordon ran that nice Pepsi throwback paint scheme, and on lap 9, Matt Kenseth got into him, and they made contact.
That race had so many big crashes in that one, and it had so many lead changes too. That's a classic Talladega race right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to be able to someday talk with Mark Martin about that 2009 season. Just the comeback, going 4 years without winning, getting this opportunity at Hendrick. That was such a legendary season for Mark. Mark, if you're watching, we want you on the podcast.
Well, we had the opportunity to have him on ours, and he's such a down-to-earth guy. Like, I gained so much more respect for Mark Martin after that show. And he told us, like, he didn't want to go drive the 5 car.
Mm-hmm.
But Rick Hendrick just annoyed him to the point to where he said, okay, I will. Leave me alone.
It was funny because I watched the Dale Jr. Download episode with him on it. And Mark was like, I'll come race for you part-time. I mean, I'll if you throw me in for, like, I think it was like 20 races, I'll do it. And then Rick was like, all right, well. And then he kept asking, you should come back and ask him again. And come back and ask him again. He's like, fine, I'll do it. And he said 1 year full-time, and then the next 2 years to be part-time. And after 2009, that turned into full-time.
You know what's the funny thing? Rick didn't want to run a part-time car. He did anyways. He put a part-time car out there, Brad Keselowski, into 25.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why I feel like so many people thought Brad might come back next year before that 1-year deal he signed with Penske. And now you look at it, I mean, Brad turned out pretty all right. And Hendrick's on the upside. They're definitely getting back to where they should be. I just think they need to be more consistent outside of Chase Elliott. I think that's the only thing they lack right now. Bowman's run at Dover
Bowman running 5th at Dover. Like, I was happy to see it. I know he got 2nd there last year, 5th there. I think he's got some tracks in the playoffs that are going to be really good for him. This first round in the playoffs, Darlington, he ran really good there earlier this year. So I think that's when they probably got it circled to try to do everything they can for a win at that one. Bristol, he's ran pretty good at. Richmond, I think he had like a top 10 run last time they were there, so he's not too bad. Then the round after that, even though Chase is the premier road course racer, like, Chase didn't do as good in 2018 as he did last year, obviously. Their best guy with an average – Hendrick's best guy in terms of average start, average finish is Alex Bowman. In 2018, he qualified 3rd for the Roval. And last year, he was on the front row but had to go to the back because of an issue. In 2018, he finished 3rd or 3rd or 4th. He got a top 5, I know that. I think it might have been 4th if he finished. But he finished 2nd in 2019. The Roval, statistically, is probably Alex Bowman's best track. He just needs to cap it off of a win this year.
Yeah, I mean, if Hendrick could get 2 or 3 of these guys into the round of 8, that'd be huge. I'd say 2 is more realistic for him because I don't think Byron or Jimmy Johnson would be able to get to the round of 8. Obviously, they could. I mean, we've seen weirder things happen when it comes to playoffs because right now you only got 2 guys that are really consistently kind of virtual locks into that round of 8.
If they can get Bowman and Elliott somehow into the round of 8, they could both be dark horses to somehow be competing for the championship because you consider I think Kansas is in the Final Four. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So Kansas is in there. Chase has won at Kansas before. Alex nearly won at Kansas before, just missed it on the last few laps. So both of those guys could potentially win there. Chase could potentially win Martinsville. And you put both Chase and Alex in Phoenix fighting for a championship, who both of them have been close to winning there before. Hendrick could still be a dark horse to screw around and mess up and win this championship somehow.
Yeah, I think you're really only going to have Harvick and Hamlin can just put it on cruise control really from here on out. And we can basically put them into Phoenix right now. So it's going to come down, I think, to 2 spots when it comes down to Phoenix. And just like you said, if they can get past the first couple of rounds, if they can get into the round of 8, watch out for Hendrick Motorsports because they're going to be there. And I think from the first couple of weeks that we got back from COVID, I was saying that Alex Bowman was arguably one of the best drivers week in and week out, but then it's just like this 2-month stretch of just ugliness.
It's almost like he did so good that he got that contract extension, and he went back on cruise control like he was.
Yeah.
Now, maybe it's okay. Just do what you can, but get your mind right when you're in the playoffs. Like if I'm Hendrick Motorsports, I'm the 9 and I'm the 88. I look at each 3 races in the rounds, and I pick one where I say, that's it. I'm gonna have the best car at this track. We're gonna focus on trying to win at this one. That's what you have to do in the style playoffs. You don't just try to have a top 5, which you want to try to do that every week. But if you're fighting, to advance into each next round, you got to circle at least one race and say that's ours. We're going after that one.
Yeah, and now Hendrick needs to get back on top because NASCAR ain't the same without Hendrick on top. I think Hendrick
NASCAR is a good place when Hendrick cars are winning. I will say that.
Yeah, the fans love it. Gets the fans back, and they're like, "Oh man, I could see Chase Elliott win. I could see Bowman win. Just seeing Hendrick back up front, it'd be great for him, and it would add some diversity from this Ford Toyota kind of stranglehold on the Cup Series. And if you get Chevy in there, that just makes the manufacturers' battle just even better. And when people are trying to beat each other, when it's close competition, that's when you get the best racing. And you get the Hendrick cars up there to compete with the Gibbs and Stewart-Haas and Penske cars every week. That's when you're going to get the best racing. I need to see it from more than just Chase Elliott, though. If we could get Bowman, Byron, and Jimmy Johnson / whoever replaces him, if someone replaces him next year, if they can consistently, all as a 4-car operation, get up in that top 10 consistently every week, then NASCAR is just going to take another step forward into getting, more and more fans back into the sport.
If I'm William Byron and I don't make the playoffs this year, then he's only made it 1 year out of the 3 years he's been there, and Alex has made it all 3 years and at least made it through to the round of 12. I'm starting to get concerned for my job in 2021 because we just talked a few minutes ago about where does Noah Gragson eventually go. Well, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. There's been a huge scandal now with Liberty University. They may need to back out of the public eye.
Oh, man.
If that happens and William is in danger of losing one sponsor, this is a big if,
Mm-hmm.
But it's a pretty serious scandal going on with their maybe current president, maybe former president now. I don't know, but it's a huge, huge scandal now with Liberty University. So if that goes south for William and I ain't won a race, I'm barely making it in the playoffs when I do, and Alex is over here at 2 wins, you're both struggling for sponsorship. Who's the weak link in this case?
Yeah, because Exalta can continue to sponsor both of them, but they might need to just shift their focus to one guy. And right now, with William Byron only getting his first top 5 of the season this past Sunday at Dover, and he's got the best crew chief, arguably, in NASCAR history with him, he's got to step it up. Granted, there's been no practice, but how much more of an excuse is no practice going to be? Because everyone's in the same position every week. Personally,
I think if you swap Greg Ives and Chad Canals, both drivers benefit from that.
Yeah, saw
that. That's me personally. On Dover on Sunday, they showed where Chase and what am I saying Chase for? William and Chad Canals were basically arguing the entire race.
Mm-hmm.
I think that comes down to William still being so young. I mean, Alex is young too, but he is kind of like, the veteran, quote, of the team after Jimmy. I think, personally, Chad Canals' style would fit Alex a little bit better than Greg, but that's, that's my opinion.
I mean, we've seen Hendrick do it before, and it worked out really nicely for him. Back in the offseason going into 2011, they swapped crew chiefs except for the 48. And they, Jeff Gordon benefited with Alan Gustafson. Dale Jr. benefited with Steve Letarte.
Oh, big time.
And then Mark got stuck with Lance McGrew, but Mark was kind of on his way out anyway because his performance in 2010 wasn't as good as it was in 09. I think that was just marked. It was kind of the decline for him. That was kind of the end for him full-time racing. So we could see that again if this 24 doesn't step it up, because it's either William Byron, change the crew chief, or you get the new driver in there to try to see if it's the driver's fault.
Yeah, I mean, you're driving Hendrick's flagship number. I don't know if it's a curse that I can only win with Jeff Gordon because Chase never won in 24. He got all his wins in a 9. William hasn't produced a win. There's a curse on the 24 after Jeff left, apparently.
It is. That's exactly what we were talking about last week. The curse of the 24. It's a real thing, man.
Yeah, we mentioned, we brought it up because we're talking about how Matt and the McDonald's car and everything, and I was talking about how the stat, I always bring it up. McDonald's has only been the main sponsor of a race-winning car in the Cup Series once, back in '94 with Jimmy Spencer. So I'm thinking McDonald's maybe hops on that 24 curse, and maybe the 2 negatives create a positive and they win. But yeah,
when it comes to watching sports, you got to come up with any sort of whatever theory to, hey, we'll put these 2 negatives together. It's going to make a positive. That all's going to be right in the world.
Mm-hmm.
If you're watching sports, you got to do whatever you got to do to make yourself feel better.
And so with Dover, obviously, I feel like with those drivers with the high horsepower and low downforce, they were working more. They're definitely working more this past weekend, but we still kind of saw the same results with Denny Hamlin dominating on Saturday and Kevin Harvick dominating on Sunday. I think Harvick's run was even more compelling because on Saturday, it was found out that his track bar was basically broken on Saturday, and he still finished 4th. So who knows what he could have done with Hamlin if his car was at 100% on Saturday. And then once it was at 100% on Sunday, he really just put a whipping on the field. There's a restart with 17 to go, and he still won by almost 5 seconds. So what he was doing on Sunday was incredible. I think he led 223 laps out of the 311. Hamlin's run was, it was impressive. He still had to pass Truex in the late, in the winding laps, but you really don't see at Dover as much. Granted, we did have that one pass, Kyle Busch passed Chase Elliott in the 2017 playoff race. Or was it 2016? It was I think it was 2017.
It was 17. Yep.
Yeah, because he was still in the 24 at the time. But, yeah, it's interesting. And now I'm looking at it as Martin Truex Jr. I think I've tweeted it. I think he's that third guy right now. I think he's the third best guy to compete with Harvick and Hamlin. He's got 7 consecutive top 3 finishes. And right now, all he needs to do is put in victory lane, and he's right up there with Harvick and Hamlin. That's the only thing that's really separating them.
Kind of does feel like Truex been sandbagging the whole year, doesn't it?
Yeah. With how good he's been since 2017, it really feels like he's holding something back this year.
It's hard to imagine a championship 4 scenario without Harvick, Busch, or Truex in it. At this point, Hamlin. So it's hard to imagine a scenario where it's any different than it was last year in Miami for the championship 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just the way those guys were rolling last year, really, they were the clear favor for the championship 4 the whole season. This year, it's like we've got 2 guys, and then, sometimes Truex steps up. Sometimes it's Keselowski, Logano, Ryan Blaney has flashes. Chase Elliott had flashes. And now it's right. We're coming to the playoffs, and honestly, with how tight everybody is behind Harvick and Hamlin, no one's going to have that buffer to slip up in a playoff race. And we know how crazy these playoffs go. You go to a normal 1.5-mile track, and it turns into complete chaos.
Yeah.
And it's going to, we've seen it so many times come down to the cutoff race. It's going to come down to literally one position or another because somebody's going to tie in points. It's going to come down to who had the better finish in the round. And it's nuts with how many guys just have one win, anywhere from Alex Bowman to Cole Custer, and all these stage points matter now. And
that is one good thing to Alex Bowman's advantage. He had a period where he got a lot of stage victories. He got 4 stage victories this year.
Yeah.
Has the potential to get, 2 more this weekend in Daytona. That 88 team, they haven't really finished races well at Daytona, but they have been contending to get stage victories. So 88 team could potentially add on to what's been a pretty under the radar season, but mostly thanks to what they did in Darlington and Charlotte earlier this year.
Man, these guys just keep going out and keep running their own thing, and that first round is no easy task. I mean, you got Darlington, Richmond, and Bristol. Those are driver racetracks.
You guys fought the Food City 500 earlier this year. Was crazy. They had no fans in attendance, and now we've had the All-Star race. We've got fans in the stands there. So we're going to put on a good show for the people who are out there. I will not be making a trip out to the night race this year for Bristol. I think the only race I'm going to be attending this year is Talladega. So I'm looking forward to that. I just bought my tickets for that one last night. So, but when we get to Bristol, though, I think it's going to be a battle between Chase Elliott and Kyle Busch again, just like it was in the end of the All-Star race. Kyle Busch has been under the radar this year, but that's going to be his track that he's got circled because, he's probably going to enter in, maybe sitting around the 12 range if something bad happens at some of the races beforehand. Who knows what that could look like for Kyle Busch, but if you're looking at Chase Elliott versus Kyle Busch, Kyle's going to need that one to get through the playoffs more than Chase will, per se, because of the season that Chase has had.
Yeah, just some great tracks for both of those guys the first round. Chase Elliott almost won at Darlington earlier this year. Kyle Busch has proven he's won there multiple times. You got
Richmond, and no one really knows about because we haven't been there since last year.
Yeah, and the only thing you can look at is the past, and Kyle Busch has been really good there in the past. That's a JGR racetrack.
He's been good there. Hamlin's been good there. Truex has been good there.
And then you go to Bristol, and that's Kyle Busch's bread and
playground.
butter.
And he's on. If he doesn't win the night race this year, he will break a streak because he's won at least one race in Bristol each year since 2017.
And that's just how serious the action's going to be, just because every lap it's going to be like, oh, you hit 100 to go, and somebody's told you need to pick up 3 spots here in the next 100 laps or we're out. So bumpers are definitely going to be used. We've seen what 1 point means. We've seen Ryan Newman do it at Phoenix. He just full-on sent it into Kyle Larson for that 1 point to make the championship 4. And there's no way, even if you're a top team, if you're somebody like Kyle Busch, there's no way you can live with yourself getting eliminated in a round of 16.
Yeah.
So
not that I think he's going to, but –
Yeah, I mean, just think back a couple of years ago with Jimmy Johnson, had that 50-cent little O-ring go out on him at Dover out of the playoffs. I think no one expected that from Jimmy Johnson. You expect this guy to be in championship 4 every single year, and just except for 2016, it just hasn't happened.
Since 2015, Kyle Busch has not missed the championship 4. I mean,
I think this year could be the year where he's not there.
Yeah, I don't see him making it.
Could you imagine a race weekend where Kyle Busch isn't even mentioned? Once he's out of the playoffs?
It's been happening this year.
Yeah, we've been seeing it a couple times this year.
And you see how upset Kyle Busch gets when he's just, not winning a race. He was upset when he got second at Phoenix last year. He's still going to the championship 4. But they're talking about his 21 race winless streak, and he's like, man, you really had to bring that up.
I think what would be more interesting is a race weekend where neither Kevin Harvick or Denny Hamlin are mentioned at all. That's what I want to see.
You might get that this weekend. The night races seem to be Hamlin's curse. He always gets caught up in something in the night race at Daytona.
And then Harvick's just Harvick, I think, honestly, is just whatever happens, guys. If we tear it up, we tear it up.
Yeah, they can afford to do that now. I mean, you look at Harvick, and he back in that 29 car, he was a serious threat at the super speedways. Now he's there, but he's never like leading. He's never leading when it comes to these super speedways. He's always, somewhere in that back half of the top 10 usually. But he's not.
He'll be leading them around Talladega. I can tell you that he'll be leading them around Talladega.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of names this weekend that are going to be going, balls to the walls because they only shot us to win. And I think if you're looking at one of those bubble teams like Johnson, Byron, Matt DiBenedetto, you got to race up front. You can't just hang in the back. You've got to get stage points. You can't be riding around in the back. And that's what might cause a wreck. I think the most interesting parts of this race is going to be the end of the stages. I think people are going to get desperate for positions, and that's what's going to happen. Now, if I'm somebody like Tyler Reddick, Eric Jones, anybody outside that top 20 in points, it's your chance to hang in the back because the stage points mean nothing to you. You've only got to win. So the strategies are going to be all over the place, and the night race seems to usually be crazy. And it starts early. It always starts early in the night race. It doesn't wait until the end of the races like the 500 usually does. These races seem to go haywire on, lap 15.
Yep. And then we're left with like 4 cars in the field, and that's it.
Hey, Eric Jones is good when there's only like 4 competitive cars at Daytona. He's won twice like that. But, Eric Jones, look out for him. So we're talking about Daytona already. I think we should make our race picks. I think these are all going to be strategically played out. I know I've been taking my notes and calculating it for 3 hours to make my pick because it's going to be right. But we'll start with our guest, Danny. Danny, who's going to win at Daytona?
Well, sentimentally, I'd love to see Jimmy Johnson win, but I don't see it happening. Instead, though, even though I will say he's the unluckiest super speedway racer in NASCAR, he's also one of the most consistent, but he's only got 1 victory on super speedways in his entire career. I'll say he gets a second one because Ryan Newman is going to win.
Now, Ryan Newman's been really good at these super speedways. He's always there at the end, always a factor.
I have his last 10 super speedway finishes here. If you counting the Busch Clash and duels and all that, his last 10 finishes have been 9th, 14th, 7th, 5th, 2nd, 5th, 3rd, 9th, and 24th.
Yeah, and that wouldn't have been a 24th if he didn't run out of fuel coming to the green-white checkered at Talladega. He was in 7th for that restart, so who knows what he could have done.
Yeah, and for the most part in that race, he was just kind of – he wasn't really – I could tell he wasn't driving the same after what happened in Daytona. He wasn't trying to be too aggressive, but I think he's going to get his mojo back for this one.
Yeah, he's definitely a good pick. I wrote an article earlier this year for Beyond the Flag with the top 5 active super speedway drivers, and Ryan Newman was on that list. People were kind of surprised to see him, but they don't notice how he's always there at the end, and he's been really good there. He's got a Daytona 500, nearly 2. So I'd look for him to be a factor. He's got to win to get in, so why not? Yeah. So now I'm going to pick. So my calculated pick all comes down to Joey Logano. Joey Logano has been kind of off. He hasn't won since we've come back, I don't believe. So Joey Logano needs a win and needs some momentum going to the playoffs. And Joey Logano is always up front at these races. I think he's due to win one at Daytona especially. He seems to get wrecked when he's up in the front, but this time he's not. He's going to dominate the race, and he's going to have his Penske teammates right behind him, and I think they're going to pull a Joe Gibbs race and finish 1, 2, 3. Maybe even 4th with DiBenedetto. Steve?
Well, let's see. We were just talking about him a couple minutes ago. Guy got his first career win there, won the Busch Clash. I'm going Eric Jones. He knows he's going to be out of that car, so why not just go out and try to get in victory lane, try to get solidify your spot in the playoffs. And I think there's going to be a huge crash. There's going to be a couple of guys left, and Eric Jones is going to be one of them. Even if he's got the nose punched in on the front of the car, he's going to get pushed to victory lane. So I got Eric Jones winning.
He's got a nice auto owners card this week. First time he's been sponsored by auto owners. So,
Yep.
well, I think that's all we got today, guys. Thanks, Danny, for coming on, being our guest today.
Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you for coming on. You're welcome back anytime. We'd love to chat with you again.
All right. Hopefully I wasn't too much trouble for you guys tonight. So
No, we loved having you. Got a nice long podcast today. Hopefully the people enjoy it. If you want to go check out Danny B, go check out his YouTube channel. Keep checking out that NASCAR social media. You'll see him pop up a few times. But other than that, thank you all for watching and enjoy the race at Daytona. And we'll see you next week to talk about the playoffs. See you then.